All right. So this is our April meeting, and we had the friends and family event. I wish more people would have come, but Bruce, what was your head count? Is he in here yet? All right, well, let's say we have about 30 people. I wish we had more because it was a beautiful day. We had good food, we had nice weather, and we're going to have a clear sky tonight. So hopefully more people will come if we do the event again in the fall. All right, so we're just have one presentation tonight, but first, Darcy is going to be handing out some awards. And any Cracker Jack too? No, no Cracker Jack. All right, so first I'm going to turn it over to Darcy for the awards, and then we'll go to Rocky's presentation. Oh, Catherine's got a short presentation afterwards. Okay, I didn't know that. All right, so Darcy.
You're alphabetical. Okay, well, we're going to first give our 2024 outreach awards. And do you have your list? Yeah, first one. Is Matt here? We might have a lot of people that are not here. Where's Jim? Okay. Uh, yeah, these were things that we have not done, but in hindsight, we decided to do them, give out uh, the the outreach awards, and last year we decided, in hindsight, that if you had participated in 3 events like star parties, you would qualify. And Bruce sent out a survey to help us figure out who qualified. And if you feel that you have been overlooked, my records are incomplete. So please talk to me if you feel like you've been overlooked. David Higgle, you're not old enough for a certificate yet, but you're up and coming. And that's for the people who were able to make the public events. This coming year, 2025, we have 8 events on our calendar. And so if you can volunteer and make it to 4 of these events, you will qualify for the 2025 award. And we might have some other pop-up events added to our calendar. So when you come to an event, be sure and sign in, because that way we will know that you're there. And it also be helpful for us to know who the volunteers are on the site. Well, these are the ones who are receiving the pin because they qualified for 2024. But we have the pins are very nice, and we're also giving them to the members who have years of public service in outreach to the group. And these are Robert Carroll. You've been a member and doing this long enough. Bill Ingberg, is he here tonight? Daryl Heath, we haven't seen much of him lately. Alan Lee, he's not here. Pat and Sandy Morris, they've been at every star party I think I ever went to. John Reed, outside, okay, and Carl Schultz. So, and we have name tags for our up and coming members who are volunteers. Let's see, Jeff Hopper isn't here. Harvey Scribner, is he here tonight? Aaron Stevens. Can you pull out some lanyards for us, please, Rocky? Zon Lin. Oh, these stick together. Tom James. Is he here? Tim Rand. Nicholas Lavelle. He's one of our student members. Not here. Lake Musgrave. He's the teacher member. Philip McMath. Mark Dubois. Is Mark here tonight? Stephen Aquan. He's not here. Trudy Cumpy. Peter Cumpy. And okay, here's one that's kind of well, the name is different. Is it D? Uh-huh. Is his last name Potty or Kumar? Kumar. Yeah, let him figure out with it. So okay, he's got a lanyard. Okay, we'll put that back in. Okay, so we look forward to working with you. If you have any questions, Bruce is the outreach chairman for this year. So ask Bruce. Thank you, everybody, for helping us with all the outreach that we did, and we couldn't have done that without the backup of the club. So thank you.
Catherine Norwood has a presentation on celestial sleuth. She's done one before, but and she's also been out teaching sky drawings to kids. She's done that for a long
time. This is some history on me. Been in the military. My last duty was the 47th, 54th U.S. Forces School, and then now what? And then Lawrence School District was my last duty, and those are the courses I taught. Down at the bottom, it's listed at Fordyce. I was at Fordyce High School my first year, and we had NASA come down for the Teacher in Space Kids program. They brought a couple of astronauts down. They came down and built rockets with us and stuff like that. So that was pretty neat. Really enjoyed that. Here are some. We did Van Gogh a couple of months ago, and then Monk, and then to follow up Monet. Yosemite, you see them right there. Monk was born from 1863 to 1944, and of course that takes in a lot of time, during the war. He was impressionist. Some of his best work is along with Van Gogh, of course. He is known mostly for the Scream, but he also did some artwork with the girls on the pier. Now, he did probably 20 of piers on the girls on the pier. He probably did 3 or 4. They were all different, but he did about 20 of them of each. Scream, he did about 20, and they're all different. And there's been 2 elements that have puzzled people as they look at them. As a yellow orb, if you'll look at it up here by the tree, it's not reflected in the water. The house is and the other tree is, so why is it not? Okay. So scientists and astronomers have wondered about that and the absence of them. Like I said, he created 20 variations of girls on the pier. This one right here that you see with the stars is his story. Here's a starry night. Almost like Van Gogh. He's got the stars in there in the sky, depicting twilights, and then whoops, go back, and then the storm and the sunrise include bright star planet. Okay, now here is the screen. Okay, and a lot of people have wondered, was he on something or was he insane? Was he taking something? How did he see this? The scream includes spectacular blood red skies you see there, volcanic eruption, from a volcano. And I had here is okay, astronomers have special interest in the screen because of in the painting and how it's done. Down here on the bottom, it says how Monk, he said, I was walking the road with two friends. Then the sun set all at once, the sky became blood red, felt overcome with melancholy, and stood still and leaned against the railing. Okay, dead tired, clouds, blood red tugs of fire hung above, blue, black, and forward the city. My friends went on, but that's how he came up with the idea to do this. Of course, the volcano was in the newspapers. This was printed in 1883. An in-depth look at Monk's famous painting, The Scream, sold for $120 million. Anybody wish they could sell a painting for $120 million? At the April 12th, 2012. Okay. Here's another look at the volcano, print, a print from it, and of course some sky there. And even Tennyson wrote something about his picture. I'll let y'all read it. Anybody like Tennyson? I like Tennyson, so maybe that's why it lured me to put him in here. And here's a picture of again of the girls on the pier. But if you'll notice, if we go, we had research looked at this. If we go to the next picture, you'll see that the moon can't be seen or can't reflect past the house. The house keeps it from reflecting. And then this was going to be the lights and everything, but I can't do it now because it doesn't work. But that's really, like I said, real fast presentation about Monk and the Scream and how he got there and everything. Not much. Yeah.
Yes, son of a bitch.
We'll have to put our heads together and figure out how we can make that work.
Today is April 12th, and April 12th has been celebrated as Cosmonauts Day in Russia ever since 1963 or 64. And and it's still a celebration all over the world. So we're celebrating Yuri's Day today. And I have something for the kids that just came in. Y'all want to come up and get something? Okay, that's Yuri, the first man in space. And here's you a tattoo. A tattoo. Any of you adults want tattoos? I got plenty. I was going to get both. Hey, no, now you got to stay. That was any adults that want stuff for their grandkids or for them. Oh, do you? Any other grandkids or anything? How many? Okay. If anybody decides they want one, holler. Did your kids get them? Okay. Darcy, I've got some more stuff. Where's Darcy Lee? I've got some nice pens and and a shirt to give away. If everybody will sign this, we'll do a drawing when we get done. Well, the race for space actually began at the end of World War II, 1945. The Germans, of course, had V-2 rockets that they bombarded England with, and they're famous for that. But at the end of World War II, Russia and the United States went into Germany, and both of them tried to get as many rocket parts as they could, and as many German engineers as they could. And of course, we came home with quite a few, and including Werner von Braun, who led our space program later on. And the space race kind of ended in 1975 so this presentation kind of goes from here till 1975 when Apollo-Soyuz, when the Russians and the United States met together in a space station in Skylab. And here's a couple of stamps. The first one's a German stamp that was done during World War II. I'm not sure about that one, but that shows the V-2 rockets being fired off at England. And this is the first United States stamp. And after World War II, the German engineers that came over and all the V-2 parts were sent, I think, to El Paso, Texas, to Fort Bliss. And so in 1948, they were already firing rockets off. So the United States issued a stamp that showed a V-2 rocket being fired. And if you go to El Paso, there's a museum at Fort Bliss that has one of the V-2 rockets like that. Yep. Postage is going up to 78 cents later on this year. Y'all didn't get the memo. No. Okay, how many of you remember Sputnik? There's quite a few hands in here. Anyway, Sputnik was went up on the 4th of October, 1957, and it's the first artificial satellite. And these stamps were issued by Russia, and I'm not going to go through the issue dates, but that's what's down here is the issue dates for those stamps that they were actually issued. And the Scott number, I'm not going to go through that either, but Scott catalog is the stamp catalog, and they list the numbers of the stamps. And I put this picture in there. It's from 5 years. It's a 5-year anniversary of Sputnik, but it actually shows Sputnik. And so Sputnik was pretty small. It was 23 inches in diameter, so less than 2 feet, and weighed 184 pounds. And it beeped as it went around. And if you had a ham radio, I think you could pick it up. I didn't at the time. Then the Russians, so the United States hadn't done anything yet. They're trying to, but they haven't. And the Russians sent up Sputnik 2 on the 3rd of November, 1957. And this is, they had, a lot of their stamps were really pretty. They may not have had it, but here you've got a symbolic greeting Sputnik 2 as it comes back. And there was all the kids still in here? Hey. Are you going to go get them? Yeah, you won't be back, will you? Anyway, the dog Leica, and y'all may have heard her name, some of you, died on re-entry. And what I put it, I was wrong about that, huh? Mm-hmm. And it was a 13-pound terrier mix found on the streets of Moscow, so it was a stray dog, and she died from overheating and panic in the 4th orbit. They had her wired up and everything so they could monitor her vitals. Kind of sad, but she died for the future of space flight. Okay, the United States finally launched something in 1958 on 31st of January, and they launched launched Explorer 1. They didn't issue a stamp for it until like 1999, but they did issue a stamp for it. No, Explorer 1, Echo 1's coming up. Huh? I don't know. I hadn't even thought of that. But it discovered the Van Allen belts, and down here is Werner von Braun and Van Allen, and I'm not sure who the third guy is. But that's the actual size of the satellite. They're holding it right there. Then Sputnik 3 was launched in May of 1958, and it was the first space laboratory. It was supposed to go up before Sputnik, but they had some problems with it. And Sergei Korolev, who was the leader of the, like von Braun was the United States, he was the Russian leader. He decided to send up Sputnik 1 first, which I think was pretty good because everybody in the world, pretty much all over the world, participated with Sputnik 1 by listening to the beeps and stuff and marveling at it. Luna 1 went up in January of 1959. It's the first flight outside the Earth's orbit because it missed the moon. It was supposed to hit the moon, and it missed it, and it went out into orbit around the sun. It was the first moon probe sent up, and then these stamps are globes and routes of Luna 1. Luna 2 was the first rocket to hit the moon in September of 59. That other rocket was January of 59. So about 8 or 9 months later, it confirmed the silver wind and verified the Van Allen belts. I think that Luna 1 also witnessed the solar wind, and they verified it in Luna 2. Luna 3 is a special one. Luna 3 showed the first pictures of the far side of the moon. And the far side of the moon, nobody had seen it before then, but it's totally different from our side of the moon. You can see this is one of the first pictures that came out of the far side of the moon. And you can see there's not a lot of seas in it. Like on our side of the moon, there's seas, and we're tidally locked with the moon, so the Earth's gravity, would naturally pull the molten lava towards this side, and there's big craters on that side of the moon, or impressions, but the lava didn't come up. And this is just a picture of the orbit of Luna 3, and this. No, they actually came back. They had to they couldn't get them to transmit when it was close to the moon, but as it got closer to Earth, they were able to transmit about 18 out of 28 or something like that. They weren't able to transmit all of them. No, but they were able to transmit enough of them to see the far side of the moon. And it didn't do it instantaneously like they do it now. Yeah, I've got that. I've got a stamp for that. So this is stamps showing it and the first picture and the far side of the moon. A little map of it. And the Russians list, and you'll see here, the Russians list issued a lot more stamps than the United States. A lot of them are very attractive. I thought they had pretty stamps, but this is issued to commemorate the 21st Congress of the Communist Party, and they, of course, they put some of their achievements because they were way ahead of the United States at this point. There were some other flights issued, but I'm primarily going with stamps. I wouldn't have time to do the whole thing. But this is Echo 1 that Michael asked about, and it launched on 13th of May, 1960. It was a 100-foot diameter metallized balloon, and it orbited the Earth every two hours. And I was a young Boy Scout at the time, went on a camp out and participated in my first snipe hunt. The rest of them, I was the guy directing the snipe hunt. But if y'all know what a snipe hunt is, and I was about 12, I guess. But anyway, I saw Echo one at least 4 or 5 times that night because we stayed up most of the night. That was back before you had to have a scoutmaster with you. We went on our own. And then Sputnik 8 or Venera 1. Venera 1 is the first Venus space probe. It launched the 12th of February 1961. It flew by, boy, I misspelled, flew by Venus, but lost radio contact and returned no data. So it wasn't very much of an achievement. Sputnik 9 and 10 were the first live beings returned from space. There were 2 dogs, Jamal and Chernuska, mice, guinea pig, cosmonaut dummies. And that's when it launched in 1961. One of them launched on the 9th of March and the other the 25th of March. So those are the first beings returned from space alive. So now they're brave enough to send a man up. So that was March 1961. So he went up on April 12th. So that's only a few weeks later. So I guess they learned enough. But Yuri Gagarin, who this tonight is Yuri's day, and was the first man in space, and that's 64 years ago today. And the flight lasted an hour and 48 minutes and completed 1 orbit. Now, all of Sputnik's, you know, the Americans, the capsule or whatever would land in the ocean, and then they'd pick it up with a boat and recover the capsule. All of the Russians bailed out and came down on a parachute. All the ones in Sputnik or Vostok. And I don't have a stamp for this one. They didn't issue one, but this was the first American in space, and that was May 1961, Alan Shepard, in a Mercury capsule and a Redstone rocket. Vostok 2, which is August 1961, so all these last events are 1961, shows Major Titov and Vostok 2, and he orbited the Earth 17 times. And then Mercury, Project Mercury, and the stamps have gone up to 4 cents by now, and this is 1962. First American in orbit, Earth orbit, was John Glenn. He had 3 orbits and splashed down in the North Atlantic. And this is the first they started issuing cosmonauts days on April 12th every year, and so they usually issue stamps for them, and so this is one of the first ones. Then we get to Kennedy when he gave his speech at Rice University on the 12th of September 1962, and they issued this stamp posthumously on 29th of May 1964 on his birthday. I don't know if this will work. Anyway, I had a speech put in there, but it's not working. A little short 1-minute thing, him saying that we'll go to the moon not because it's easy, but because it's hard. So, okay. And then in 1962, USSR sent Mars 1 rocket, and before it got to Mars, communication was lost and it went into orbit. They did have Mars 2, almost 10 years later, was a successful mission going past Mars. I think that was before we did that too. And then here's another Cosmonauts Day, and these are 6 different stamps, but that's kind of a neat stamp set. And this is Vostok 5 and Vostok 6, and this was the first woman in space, Valerie Bykovsky and Valentina Tereshkova. And they had to cut their flight short because there was a solar flare activity, but shorten it to 5 days. It was supposed to be 8 days originally and be the longest mission up to that time. But Valentina Tereshkova joined on a day or two later, and was the first woman to orbit the Earth, and a publicity coup for the Russians. I think at the time that was one of the longest. That was the longest flight, and they used a lot of stamps for this. They were really proud of them, and these are just close-ups of some of the stamps. This is another Cosmonauts Day. This is called a souvenir sheet, and you could have broken out the stamps and used them on letters. And the United States makes souvenir sheets also. And this is the father of rocketry was the United States. Robert H. Goddard had the first liquid fuel rocket in 1926, and known as the founding father of modern rocketry. So this Voskhod 1, which is a new spaceship, not Sputnik anymore, I don't think, was the first three-person crew, and they flew without the first to fly without spacesuits. So they had the cabin pressurized and everything. And that was 1964. Voskhod 2 in March of 65. Lieutenant Colonel Alexei Leonov was the first man to exit the do a spacewalk. It was plagued with problems. His suit swelled up, and he couldn't get back in the door, so he had to let pressure out of his suit. And then they had other problems on the way back. So there were a lot of problems with the flight, but they made it. More Cosmonaut Day stamps. And here's one of my favorites, one of the prettiest stamps. And this is probably one of the first, what they call satellite stamps, where stamps were, one picture was over two stamps with a split down the middle. And this is America's first spacewalk by Ed White, which was 3rd of June, 1965. The first U.S. more than one-day mission. Made 62 orbits. He was in space for 22 minutes. And I think that stands for extravehicular activity. And that was the first time they used that acronym. They didn't issue the stamp till 1967, which I kind of thought was strange. And here's some more just Russian stamps. These are more artistic, I think. Lunar 9 was the first soft landing on the moon, January of 1966. And you can't tell a whole lot, but this is the lunar module. I have a feeling they took that picture on Earth. I don't think they could have gotten it on the moon, but it's a picture of the lunar module. Neat arrangement for the stamps. Then Soyuz 3 was the first docking attempt with an unmanned Soyuz 2, and it failed. So they were trying to go up into space and dock with another spaceship. And I didn't put this guy's name down, but he was the oldest person. He was a World War II flying ace, and he was the oldest man into space up till that time. Then Apollo 8, United States, the Russians issued neat stamps, but to me the United States issues prettier stamps. I just like them better. They have more of a meaning to them, a little simpler and better designs. But Apollo 8 was during Christmas 1968, the first men to orbit the moon. They went around the moon 10 times. And they gave a message from space to Earth on Christmas Eve that year, reading from the Bible, among other things. And that was Borman, Lovell, and Anders on it was that when they start Earth Day? Okay. It's, what'd they call it? The little blue planet, blue something or other? I don't remember now. Huh? Anyway. And this is Sergei Korolev. He died in 1966, January of 66, I think. Kind of young. He was only 60 years old. But he was the leader of Russian rocketry. And here's some more neat stamps issued for Cosmonaut Day. Then we did Apollo 11. And the Russians actually knew what we were trying to do, and they tried to beat us. And they put together they had bigger rockets than we did. And they put together a big rocket. And I think, I'm not sure, I didn't review this before I came, but I think it was July 4th or something like that. It was in July of that year. And they tried to send this rocket to the moon to beat us. And it got up about 200 feet in the air and came back down. And with all that rocket fuel, it basically destroyed it wiped out a lot of their engineers and killed a lot of people. But they didn't have a stamp for that. But the first man on the moon was July 16th to July 24th. And of course, that was on July 20th that Neil Armstrong first set foot on the moon. And the astronauts were Armstrong, Aldrin, and Collins. And they have 3 craters named for them right above their landing site in Mare Tranquilitas. If you're ever looking at Mare Tranquilitas and want to take a picture of that area, you can get those 3 craters. Or you can see them with a telescope too. They're small. Okay, this is the one you were talking about. No, this is not the one you were talking about. This is where they tried a group flight with three different spaceships trying to dock, and the docking failed, but they all made it back. And this is Luna 17, and they had the first lunar rover. It wasn't near what our lunar rover is. It collected samples from the moon and did analysis and stuff, but it moved around and collected samples. So it got them from different areas. So that was pretty neat. That was 1970. Then we had the lunar rover, which was actually really a lot more sophisticated. It would go, I think they went 17 miles total on the moon in the lunar rover. And it also commemorated 10 years of space since Alan Shepard's first manned space flight in 1961. So this is another Satanic stamp, and I think a really neat one. But there's more to this. I was going to tell you a little bit about, okay, since we're doing stamp collecting, or stamps here, there's a lot more to it. There's actually a big scandal that went on with Apollo 15. They actually canceled that stamp on the moon as per the first day of issue. They always had a first day cancellation, and they canceled the first one was canceled on the moon, and that is in the Smithsonian. That one that he canceled, I don't have a picture of that. But also before the astronauts went up, they had a hard time getting life insurance. And so what they did was they would make up 100 or 200 covers, and all 3 of them would sign them, and they'd give these to their wives. And if they got killed up there, these would be worth a lot of money. They figured they could sell these for a lot of money, and so and they'd cancel them on the day of launch or something like that. And so these were, and still are sought after covers. I looked up some of them, and they're like $400 or $500 on eBay. You can still get them. You can get them. But that wasn't the scandal. They did that on just about every mission. But on this mission, they had a stamp dealer approach them that he wanted them to take 100 covers to the moon, signed covers and everything. And you see here, landed at Hadley on the moon, July 30th, 1971, and has their signatures, all three of their signatures. And anyway, and they decided this is a good idea. So they each took 100 for themselves, and 398, they miscounted, and there were only 398. So they canceled 398 of these covers on the moon and brought them back. Well, there was a law. Weren't supposed to do that. You weren't supposed to profit from going to the moon like that. And so they told the stamp dealer, you got to hold these covers until after Apollo's over with. But the stamp dealer didn't. He went ahead and started selling, so they caught him. So they had to turn in their cover. They had to turn in all their covers, and they were barred. There's even a congressional hearing on it. And they were barred from any further space flights. And they were several of them were scheduled for future space flights. So them and one other person from another flight that they found out had done something similar. Well, the funny thing is when the space shuttle program came out, the government started issuing covers, taking the covers up in the space flight and then selling them in a special package and all that. So at that time, they gave each one of the astronauts back their 100 covers to sell or do whatever they wanted with. And I didn't find any of those on eBay. So, but I'm sure they're pretty expensive. Okay, this is the one you were talking about, where they had 3 cosmonauts. They were the first crew to board a space station, but on the way back, I don't remember exactly what happened, but the cabin was depressurized and they all died. Yeah, that's right. Seals broke. And this is Skylab 1, 1974, first anniversary of the launching. Crewed it for 64 days. And there's some more Skylab stamps here in a minute. We also launched Pioneer 10 in 1972 that flew by Jupiter in December of 1973. And Mariner 10 in 1973 that flew by Venus and Mercury in 74 and 75. And then these were Russian Apollo Soyuz stamps issued in July of 75. And these are also Russian and American, and they issued a joint set of stamps. See, one of them's Russian and one of them's American to commemorate the flight. And this is kind of when I feel like the space race was completed. But I've got some more stamps that have been issued. The United States has issued a lot of space stamps, and I don't have information on them, but here's some from the Hubble telescope they issued. These are ones they issued in around 2000 when they had some special stamp issues. And these two, of course, one of these is E.T. and the other one's Star Trek. And then Viking mission to Mars. Space Achievements issue was a nice set of stamps. International Polar Year. I think that was when there was that solar outburst too? No, I don't think so. International cooperation. Scientists from around the world for polar research. And those are, of course, the Northern Lights. Then these are a set of USA fictional space stamps. A booklet of space stamps for the planets. And this is a meteor. Russia's had its share of meteorites, I guess, that hit their big ones. And this is one of their big ones. Of course, they had Tunuska or something in 1908 that flattened huge areas of Siberia, hundreds of square miles, knocked down all the trees. And then they had, of course, they had one about, 10 years ago, too. Yeah. This is 1957-58 was International Geophysical Year, and so that's when the sunspot, and that was a year when the sunspots were a lot of sunspots, like now when the solar activity was at its most. And I was just 8 years old, at 7 or 8 years old at the time, but I remember that year we had terrible storms and flooding, and those kind of, and I always thought that went along with this International Geophysical Year. Okay, that's all.